So as you know, I'm trying to get some more data so that I can code it and analyze it and write about it. So I'm glad if you're willing to give me your opinion. And if it's an opinion that's been given before, that's okay. So I'm going to record an audio version of this discussion, and Natalie's going to make a video. And we're just going to ask some questions, and we'd like each of you to answer. You don't have to answer everyone, but most of them. If you have an opinion, and you can also just say, just said exactly what I was going to say.
Would you mind sending me those questions? Or are those already on file?
I have one copy, but I don't.
Okay, no, that's fine then. Don't worry about
I'll
it.
give it to you.
Okay.
All right, so you are the university supervisors that have supervised teacher candidates, both student teachers and interns, during this past school year, fall or winter. And I'd like you to tell me, what is your experience like when you go into someone else's classroom and you sit down to do a face-to-face observation of a student teacher? Could be an intern. Say teacher candidate. So how do you feel? What do you think about what happens in the room?
Do you want us to each take a turn? Or?
Yeah.
Okay, so for me it's usually scheduled. I usually arrive, I'd like to say I arrive early, but I usually don't. So I'm usually running in at the last minute. There's hopefully, they have a place for me, a location with their lesson plan. In most cases it's like that. I'm usually in close enough proximity to see the teacher and the students. It's usually, for me, in an elementary classroom, it's about 20 to 30 minutes. In a high school class, it's about an hour to an hour and a half.
So, can you read the question again?
Tell me what it's like for you to go into a classroom and observe a teacher candidate. What's that experience like?
So my philosophy towards supervising student teachers is very much shaped by how I was supervised when I was going through the teaching program. And so I like to think of it as a very traditional thing where it's scheduled, like Heidi said, it's scheduled in advance. The teacher knows I'm going to be there. I also one of the big things that I do is I make sure that I can debrief with the student teacher immediately after. And so I make sure that I just am not going in and watching and then leaving while they're still teaching. I make sure that we have time to sit down together. Normally we make sure that they have a planning period or something after. I'll go sit down with them for a half an hour to an hour and go over exactly what I saw and give feedback on that. One of the things I've noticed with a lot of my teachers is they feel like when I'm there as a supervisor, they feel like everything should have been perfect and that I've never seen a kid misbehave or anything. And I don't. And so I think they're always kind of nervous, and I try and alleviate those concerns by scheduling it in advance and letting them know that I've seen a lot of stuff in classrooms and what they were doing was bad. But it's pretty straightforward. I enjoy going in classrooms. It's one of the things I do is I enjoy seeing how classrooms are organized. I enjoy seeing different kinds of kids, and I enjoy seeing our teachers teach.
Great. Okay.
I think as far as the logistics, it looks very similar when I go into what's already been said. Even Heidi's comment about being just a fraction late happens regularly. But yeah, so go in there, you sit down, watch what they've been planning to do. I have asked them typically to send me in advance the lesson plan. So I try to have a sense. What are they trying to accomplish? What would I expect to do before I show up and watch what they did? I have in my mind what I would try to do, and so I'm always kind of kicking that around in my head. The debrief that happens, my concern with it has often been I feel like they're already so flustered and kind of overwhelmed by the process because. Yeah, I get the same kind of comments Ryan was talking about, like, I'm so sorry he acted that way. Okay, I wish I could control every kid every single time too. That would be wonderful. But so they say things like that, and I think they're kind of amped up and excited and overwhelmed and all those emotions floating around. And then I feel like if I tell them things, I'm always concerned how much retention they have. I think they probably remember much more of what I write later on and give back to them than they do that debriefing session. So I've really tried to play around with, I think I was really, really detailed at first, and then now it's like one or two things. That's all I'm going to send your way after.
Okay, I like that. And I'll come to you too in just a sec. Do you always feel comfortable in the classrooms?
I do.
Feel like they want you there and it's a natural setting and things are happening that would normally happen?
One of the things I always do is I always have them introduce me to their students, and I tell them that I'm not there once the students.
That's a good, I don't do that, that's a good thing.
I always talk to the students, I'm friendly with them, but, you know, a lot of times the student teacher will say, there's my professor back there, and then I'll say, I'm not here to watch you, I'm here to watch your teacher. Just so that it's not just some stranger who shows up and they've never seen before. So I always make sure that I'm introduced and I let the kids know that I'm there to watch the teacher.
Sometimes there is a little bit of, I feel some mentor teachers I feel a little bit of tension with, because it's kind of like I'm just showing up and I'm the college person and they're there every day and so
It's about time you show up, right?
yeah,
You're
there's
dripping in.
some people are just like wonderful, or I know them from summer practicum and that's easy. But if I don't know them well and we just had our brief talk over our three-way meeting, there can be a little feeling of you're going to tell them to do things, but I've been telling them to do things. I don't know. Sometimes there can be a little bit of tension.
Okay, so you wish there was more of a feeling of on the same page?
I don't know if I wish it just exists. I don't know what I wish for. You can come back to me.
Okay.
I would say that. I would agree with your statement. I
You wish there was more?
there was more, that we started in the same place. Like the
mentoring?
teacher and I were closer together, whether that's the same procedures or my same approach to rules or routines,
That's
whatever
true.
it is.
Sometimes there's
like,
a really difference in philosophy, and then it's very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the strengths too. So I go in and I feel like most of the time on the same page, because we do this. Whenever I do my three-way observation, I do an observation, the teacher sits down and does an observation at the same time, and then we go and do a three-way meeting and debrief the first observation so we can all make sure we're on the same page. But I also think it's a good thing if I'm looking for different things than their teacher. I think that's diversity of thought.
And maybe it's just saying that.
Yeah. But I think it's good that they're looking for different things than I should.
Gordon, tell us what you feel like when you go to observe a teacher in person.
Well, I'm always very comfortable going in. I've been in so many classrooms. I walk in, greet the teacher, make sure I know where the teacher wants me to sit, which would be a good place for it, and get the lesson plan. I then always look around the classroom and see how it's organized, and see what's on the walls and that sort of thing, see what the teaching seating arrangement looks like. I'm always comfortable just looking over the lesson plan, and when the lesson begins, I just do the observation as always, pay attention to things, and write my comments and stuff, and always make sure that we're ready for the debrief after. I note things that I think are good ideas that I can pass on to if I learn a lot of good things.
My experience is very similar to what's been said. I feel relatively comfortable going in, and I like going into the classroom for some of the reasons Gordon mentioned. Being able to see, get a feel for the school environment and for the classroom itself and what's on the walls, and just kind of procedural things that happen before the lesson starts or even after the lesson ends. Actually, I find to be very telling about what's actually happening in the class versus like the little snapshot that I see in the classroom, or that I see during their lesson. Sometimes their formal lesson and what seems to actually be happening are very different, if that makes sense. And sometimes not. So I actually really like going into the classroom for that reason.
Do you feel like the feedback that you can give in your face-to-face visit is valuable and that the students implement it? I'm assuming you've already written comments.
Right.
I think the thing that's nice about the debrief in person and the feedback is that it's more conversational. So it's like, what did you see? And then they reflect, and then I usually try to go off the problem that they bring up. When I just give feedback, I just discuss the things that I see. So the debrief in person has that element. It's more their reflection.
Kind of with that, I think it brings some humanity to the conversation. You can get a much better feel. You can just communicate things differently face to face than you can on, just even in my writing when I hand them my feedback. Sometimes it can feel more, especially kind of from what Kay was saying, they're amped up, they're nervous, they're being watched. A lot of them still have this idea that like they're gonna fail their whole student teaching or internship, and that even like some negative, even one poor rating is gonna ruin that. And I think just having that face to face and letting them say, voice some of those fears and creating a rapport, which is harder to do than just on written feedback.
I like the face-to-face things. Students don't realize this when I meet with them though, but a lot of times that is a debrief where they're doing the self-critique and they don't realize it. And so most of the discussion during that time is them telling me how they felt with the lesson. I'll provide specific feedback, but a lot of it is them reflecting on what they did and did well and what they didn't do well. And I feel like that's very hard to do if you don't do it immediately after the fact, and if it's not done in that face-to-face discussion format. Those are things that you can't get when you're looking at it at a later point. I also, when I do my observations, I go in and get them done and I'm done. So like when I leave that debrief, I've typically typed up all my notes and then emailed it to the students. Yeah. It's just because if I don't have it done then I'm not going to give them any better comments the next day or something. So I make sure that when I'm there, I'm focused on what they're doing.
Okay. So, what was the question I thought? What else can you communicate in a face-to-face observation that you think is really important? Because it's face-to-face.
I think it's easier to answer questions about their portfolio. It's easier for them to just in the moment tell you their concerns rather than send you an email or that kind of thing. So I think there's a lot of in the moment things that can happen easier.
With that, I find that students want to meet me in person when they're talking about portfolio assignments. Very rarely do they, other than minor questions, very specific minor questions here and there, they can email me those. But even in addition to the face-to-face observations that we've scheduled, I've had many students want to schedule an additional meeting after school to really talk through their portfolios or their TWS in particular.
Okay.
I think the real thing is that it's immediate. So it happens right then. The students have the situation on their mind. You have the situation on your mind.
And you have a little bit more context too. You're sitting in the classroom with them. You were there.
That's true. I feel like I can give more emotional support, even if it's just that I'm just there smiling and listening. They seem to really feel good when I leave.
Okay, unless you're the Terminator.
I think, kind of that speaks to a little bit of what I was trying to say before.
I mean, I can pick out good things about every lesson.
Yeah. But I think that's similar to what I was trying to say before, is that I know that in written feedback, some things that I've said have made students more worried than I wanted them to feel, and that was after we had a face-to-face conversation, they were much less worried. That makes sense.
I think it's also really important to validate the student and what they're doing because they're doing a good job. And I think it's harder to do that when it's not face-to-face. So face-to-face, you can let them know they're doing a good job and those kinds of things. And I guess it comes down to connecting with the student and letting them know that you are not just some person who's watching a video of them teaching, but you've actually taken the time to come. I think it says a lot when you take the time to schedule a meeting with them, go to the school, and that kind of stuff.
I do think written positive feedback, though, is very powerful and maybe even sometimes more powerful than than something you say. So if you've written something positive, the same way it has an impact, if it's negative, has a bigger impact, I think it can also have a big impact if it's positive.
So they're getting both of those, and that's really important. So what went well with the process of supervising at a distance when you watched their video of teaching? What was that like for you?
I don't get as good a sense of the classroom as a whole, usually. I usually can see the seating and the arrangement, the teacher stands and that sort of thing, but I feel like I'm seeing this little, through a peephole, and I wish I could see the rest of the classroom sometimes. But when it comes down to the teaching part, as long as they're the camera so I can see and hear, that's been a problem a couple of times. The teacher and the students, then I feel like I can see what's going on just fine.
How do you like that process where you just do it from your office?
It works for me.
Fit it in when you have that time.
I've enjoyed it so far. I mean, I think it's worked well for me to be able to just watch it and comment and rewind and things like that when I need to. It was a little difficult getting used to how to do the observation form while watching and that kind of thing, but I think I have that figured out now.
So not very good at that. I tend to do one or the other. Kate, what went well for you with supervising at a distance?
I mentioned that I get worried that the debrief session is not a good chance for, I think all of what we've said is present there of some emotional support, and I think it does give them some validation in the moment. Like, not only is there someone who's going to help me improve, because I'm really nervous and concerned about that, but I think I come off more approachable and more accessible in person. However, I think when they're able to step back and watch and think through what did they see and then what did he see, and wait a sec, hold on, let me rewind that, I'll watch it again and then reread the comments, I feel like they have had a deeper self-evaluation experience, and that's been more valuable. And I think too, some comments that would be ignored in person, like I just don't get what he's saying, or that's not clear to me. I've had a student come back and say, I get it now, I see what you were saying here, and then I found that to be very useful. There are still logistical issues and other things that arise with getting the videos, uploading the videos only showing like half the person and still being uploaded. For the most part though, I think it's been nice because it's almost like watching them in slow motion, right? They can slow it down, pause, reflect, reread the comments, and I like that happens.
And I think that we actually want to train them to be self-evaluators, because we will not see that. So that's good.
Yeah, absolutely. They could always put up a camera, film themselves, and go back to a self-evaluation process. They'll never be able to replicate a university supervisor coming out and doing that. I'm sure they could get a mentor or some facilitator or a coach, but this is a unique.
What would you say are some of the best things about the supervision at a distance process?
I would agree with Kate. I think the strongest point of it is the self-reflection aspect, that they have an opportunity to see themselves. Very often, because we require the students to make comments before I even go on to evaluate, very often I see them catching things that I would have mentioned, that they've already caught, they've already been reflective about, they've been like, oh yeah, that was a problem. And then I think also there's a level of precision that you can't get in the moment, because it is immediate, when you're in the field doing a live observation, you can refer to a situation that happened. But I think one of the things that Kate mentioned was that they're so frazzled or whatever, or the moment's gone. Well, in video, you can, and especially with the timestamp, you can stamp right there. Look at this. Watch that over again. Rewind it. See what happened there. Let's talk. I can talk you through that, and it's very precise in a way that you can't do in real life. where you can pinpoint the exact moment something
No
happened
problem.
or
We
didn't
started
happen.
early.
And then, and it can be watched and rewatched over and over again. I think that's a real plus. And I also think, yeah, I just agree with Kate. I think the greatest strength of the video is actually the self-evaluation.
What for you?
So it's taken me, so I don't know how many years we've done this now, maybe three? So it's taken me a while to get into the groove. Now I have a day, I always watch my videos on Thursdays. And so I can't keep up with the, you need to respond in 2 days, that won't work for me. But now I always check my videos on Thursdays and respond. So now that I have that in my schedule, I'm much, much better. I don't put them off. I used to put the videos off for a long time, but now I always check them that day. So that's helped me a lot. Having the number of people that I supervise, I don't even think it would be possible to get out to the schools. So for me, it's made it possible to do 6 observations. Without the video, I would never be able to get out to that many observations. And then third, I had a student this time that I was able to watch the video and say, this is modeling. This is what you should do. This is what you should do. This is what you should do. And I was so specific on that video, I really think it turned her teaching around. Like, it was just, nothing I've ever said to someone has been as helpful as just being like, this is modeling, this is what should happen. This is your guided practice, this is what should happen, and being able to put it right on there. So it was just the specific feedback that they could go back and see exactly what I wanted was really good. So,
Good. So Stephanie Call came in. I don't know if all of you know Stephanie. She graduated as one of our senior teacher candidates, and now she's an adjunct supervisor for us. And we had scheduled to start this at 2:30, as you probably remember. But anyway, we're glad that you can join us and catch up. Anything you want to add, Ryan?
Yeah, so when I look at, what's the question again? Is it about the benefit, or what do I like about?
Yeah. What well for you?
So the things that I really like about supervision, I think what it comes down to is the distance supervision is about time. You know, it's really convenient, and if you just look at it logistically, you know, some of the students that I've supervised in the past it takes a half day or a full day to get to where they're at. You know, I'll spend a full day going up and observing the 45-minute lesson. You know, when you're going up to Salt Lake and those kinds of things. Whereas if I'm doing it from my office, I could do it in 45 minutes. I would say that with the distance supervision, I probably focus more on the technical aspects of teaching, and so that means I'm able to focus on those particular points in time and those things that they're doing, and I can go back and re-watch those things. And I think when I go do it in person, it's more of the emotional parts of teaching.
And maybe more of a general.
Maybe more of a general sense. I think that students, if you were to look at my comments from face-to-face to the distance, they're more specific comments when I'm looking at the distance supervision. And I think it's good to have a mixture of both. I don't think that I could do a good job if I was only doing distance, but I think it does have a place.
Stephanie, do you have anything you want to add? What did you like about using the video to supervise or observe?
Yeah, well, I haven't supervised a lot with you guys, but I think it's just very individual. Like last year when I helped you guys out, I think the people I was observing could do the video just fine. I think the girl that I had this time needed more meeting in person. It was a little bit harder, and maybe I just need to be better about the videos, but it was harder for me to like teach her specific things to do differently when it was on video than going in person. So I felt like they're just very, very individual. Like,
If it has a strength in your mind, what would that be?
I think like they kind of mentioned it. You can pinpoint each little thing and hurry and tear something down within the whole lesson. Whereas when you're there in person, you can't stop the lesson to say something. Whereas on the video, you can obviously stop it, kind of thing. So I feel like that's good.
Okay, so your feedback becomes more valuable because you can pinpoint.
Yeah, but then within that feedback, it's just harder. Sometimes I was like, ooh, I need to tell her this in person. I can't really, I'm really bad at putting things into words. I'm better at explaining it.
So is it possible to compare the feedback that we give face-to-face and online?
it's just different. I think it's really different.
Yeah.
I think they're
We've
both
talked about
valuable.
ways it's different, and they're both valuable.
I think so.
Yes.
You're nodding your heads.
Yeah.
It's all
I like-
written. The one way is all written, which has its own strengths and weaknesses. Like you said, it's not emotional. Or if it is, it could become too emotional in a negative way. Or
Well, your comment about stopping it and then being able to interject in the middle of a video some comment or thought. I had a lot of success just doing little videos on GoReact, right? So I would film myself saying, okay, stop now. Here's how I would have modeled that. And I would do something on a whiteboard behind me and say, okay, this is what it would look like. And then when she watched it over, that was something I could not have done, or I would not have chosen to do it in person, right? I wouldn't stand up. I would feel like I was undermining her as a him or her as a teacher, right? To stand up and say, okay, no, you sit down, let me do this for you and show you. But it was something the technology enabled me to do. And then they could even, I mean, I doubt they watched it over and over again, but they could have accessed that and reflected on that.
So I'm glad that you're taking advantage of some of those features, and we have had some upgrades as we've gone through the process, which I think are improvements.
I like too how she said that they observe themselves and take themselves. I think that's really cool.
Okay, what would make GoReact software easier to use?
If it evaluated students for you.
the upload, that is the biggest problem. Upload.
My students are getting much better at uploading.
I don't know what the problem is because they can upload things to YouTube. So why can't they upload things to? I mean, there's obviously something different about how to upload to GoReact and upload to YouTube.
My students in the past, where I've struggled with GoReact is their technical knowledge of it. And so that's where, and sometimes I think they're taking advantage of it so I can't see everything that's going on. And so it's like an iPad that's kind of tilted down and I can only see half the students in the classroom. And so it's almost like they don't want me to see some of the students, or I can't definitively say that, but that's what it's kind of felt like. And it's tough if I'm watching a 45-minute video that's a bad camera angle, I'm not that engaged in it.
Yeah.
It's a challenge as a professor to sit there and watch that stuff and provide constructive feedback when it's
That-
bad there.
That is what you had said, Heidi, resonated with me in putting it off. Because of that, for some reason,
It's not
watching
as
those
fun.
videos it's not as fun.
It's more fun to go out to
I
school.
really do feel that I enjoy, I have much more motivation to do live observations than I do the video ones. It's actually quite difficult for me sometimes, depending on how I'm feeling, to get those videos graded like I need to. It's just, sometimes it's just drudgery to get those videos up and to watch them. It's just different than live.
It is what
Once
it
you're
is.
watching,
I've had the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
is it getting to the video that's drudgery, or is it
actually
watching?
watching them.
Okay.
Actually watching
They are
them is
boring.
they're boring. It's different when you're in the classroom for some reason. It's
Yeah,
the
that's
same
true.
thing.
Sometimes it's boring in the classroom though, but I
Sometimes-
think because you're there and
Yeah.
you have to be there, you just make it work. But
yeah.
when
The
you're
thing
watching
is,
the video,
it's much harder for me. I will admit to having a backlog of videos sometimes, just because for the only reason is that I don't want to.
that's why I have to schedule a day.
Yeah.
I have to schedule a time.
It's a challenge. I mean, sometimes I don't think students, when I've done this, I think sometimes students haven't been getting that immediate feedback because they do it and then they wait a week to upload it, and
Yeah.
it's a week for me, and then it's 3 weeks. I know there's time frames and stuff now, but still, if they don't upload it immediately and stuff.
They don't make their comments. So if I get on Thursday, I'll say, you need to make comments. And then I won't watch it again until the next Thursday. So I'm on this schedule that works really good for me, but it can make things delayed. But it doesn't mean I push them off to the end of the semester at least.
And it's possible at least that they could have already had a live interview or observation between you, but they didn't get that feedback.
Gordon?
I know this isn't a software issue, the stuff we're talking about, but I have found that just by doing more GoReact videos, I've gotten used to it. So it's not as onerous as it was to begin with. I know what I'll be looking at when I get in there. And I really appreciate their comments first. So I like to read through their comments first, then I go back and watch it. And I've gotten, so I think it's just because I know what to expect, so it's not as sort of onerous as it was to start with.
So you're not anticipating being entertained?
No, and I can sit, and I realize I can focus on the teaching a student. I mean, I'm sometimes easily distracted by what else is in the classroom, you know, I want to see what books they're reading and stuff like that, but, so for me, it's just the usage has made it more comfortable.
I've actually requested that they do shorter lessons.
Yeah, I tell them to do 20
Like
minutes.
15, 20 minutes. I'm not going to watch an hour and a half lesson on Go React, whereas I would do that if I were to go in there face-to-face. I might not stay for the whole face-to-face lesson, but I would specifically request that. And I've found that helps me out.
So they're not, yeah, for me, they're not as comprehensive. Like, I don't see multiple things that happened in a class time. I only see one thing that happened in class time, so they are more narrow. Because I do tell them, don't try to do a 30-minute lesson, it won't upload.
I don't want to see 20 minutes of independent practice.
I have one other comment.
It's good to know that I can do it.
Other one,
They'll upload it 3 videos for one lesson.
Oh gosh.
45 minutes each.
Now, sometimes I only watch one. If they upload 3 like that, I'll say, I just watched the first one to give you feedback. It only counts for one.
one other thing that I think was probably more pertinent to an earlier question though, that just came to me is, what I really miss by doing Go React and not being in the classroom is actually interacting with the students. I like to say hi to them and introduce myself.
The little kids.
And the kids, and you know, just watch them interact and stuff a little bit. Hasn't anything to do with quality of supervision, I don't think. It's just a personal preference. We're all
But don't
teachers,
they
so
get
we
on
like
there
to
and
see what the
do
kids
this?
are doing.
The kids
Yeah.
do this in your
So
PDF.
this actually might be really telling about how I feel about this. I prefer to give distance feedback, but when it's feedback to myself, I would prefer to receive it face-to-face.
Mhm.
So I think that there's a lot of strengths with the distance supervision, but I don't know that any of them have to do with it's more effective or better supervision than face-to-face. I think there are things like logistics, or you can get more observations in with limited amount of time, but I don't necessarily, if I was a student teacher, I don't know that I would want to do the distance. Actually, probably a student teacher, I probably would, because I then didn't have to deal with my supervisor as often.
You can try.
Okay, what additional support would be helpful with Go
For
React?
who?
For you.
As far as like usage or
Is there anything that would make it easier for you to use or teach
Yes.
you more skills?
there's something that I love about the direct instruction, the tool that Heidi's built with our team, with our IT team, the observation tool. I love the opportunities to respond and the praise rate counter that
Yeah.
they have on that. I would love that to be on Go React.
I like that too.
The first several Go React observations I did, trying to figure out how to do that with my phone, and then I've come up with a system that works relatively well for me, and that I do tally marks now, just kind of, and I use my phone to time. But if there was a way that we could combine those two technologies and have a counter where you just set it on there and you can just click like you can on the thing that Heidi's built, that would be beautiful. I'd love to
Some
have that.
widget that exists somewhere that you can just integrate.
I'd love to have that on Go React. I think that would be one of the quickest, best things that you can do to improve the software itself for the face of it.
What else?
It's along the same lines. I use the tags. I put those in there, but then I'm
You
left
have to go
doing the
back and
same
count.
thing, like, and the counter, the timeline thing doesn't divide up very well. I can't remember what issue I was having last time, but it would like give me odd numbers, so it was hard for me to find where 3 minutes started on the video, and then 8 minutes, so I could do like 5 minutes or 3 minutes.
Or you
timing.
mean tag and then go back.
Yeah, and that's what I've been doing, saying, okay, I've observed this time, and then I've tagged it all, and I'm ended up counting them, and that little square down in the bottom left corner doesn't give me a lot of ability to use those tools very well, because it's so small, and it's,
Yeah.
but
I've started putting.
something like that would help.
I've started putting 3 labels on there, the same labels that are on our other form, you know, for opportunity to respond and
Corrective feedback?
corrective feedback and academic, behavioral and stuff ahead of time. Then I just use tallies next time.
What about the,
Stephanie, as a new supervisor, what would be helpful to you? Do you feel like more training would be good, or support of a different kind?
Well, I think everybody talking gives good ideas of being able to make a video, or I like, because I use tallies on my phone too with the or I have like a little notebook that.
And sometimes I just choose not to focus on that part of an observation.
Yeah, me too.
I don't
Sometimes
feel
I
like
have to take an opportunity.
If I can do it, if it's not going to be effective, then I won't.
I just like, I don't feel like I want additional training at this point. I prefer to just ask my questions as they come up. Because I feel like, I feel really comfortable with software. I'm using it in another class quite a bit. So I feel really comfortable with it. I wouldn't want to necessarily have to do a training that wasn't applicable. So.
I will say that I think only one person I've watched on GoReact actually knew about the capability of uploading their lesson plan onto GoReact.
Well, my students all do
Nobody
that
else
now.
has done that.
I
don't
don't
know
know
if they know how to do it.
I told my students
They
about
don't do it
it,
now.
and actually I now require that.
Mhm.
I wish I had done that.
If there's anything like that, like when I get on to look at their video, and if there's not a lesson plan, if they haven't done their comments, I just email them right back and say, these things are missing, and then I don't watch their video until they get them done.
I will teach them.
We do go over that in the orientation the first day.
So we can just remind
But on
them.
the first day, it isn't relevant to them. And I think they just forget.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I send reminders to them when it.
Maybe we need written instructions. Or something.
Yeah, if there was just a template email that I could send to them to remind them, that'd be awesome.
Or a pop-up, they could just click on a thing when they
Yeah.
get on there, and it just said, make sure you do these things.
Yeah. Oh.
The notifications for me, that would be my biggest.
Oh, yeah, if they
Feature
notified you
request.
when there's a video.
Yes.
A new
That would be-
upload,
I didn't do it for so many days.
They have to remember to email me and tell me.
And my
Made a
students haven't
donation
all
to
remembered.
charity.
Right.
In fact, the
What
minority.
if you did it increased your?
Another thing that I think would be great is a second observation form for them to observe themselves, and have, if that's a requirement, that we have two separate observation forms that they can fill out and watch themselves, and then I can then have the same observation form to do. So it's just another.
So that should happen on one of the observations.
Right.
Okay.
And that it could just be available on any of them, but then it would only be required on one.
Well, it might be nice to have the capability for 2 observers. Just always have the capability for 2 observers.
And you know what? I know that that was an issue Katie ran into last semester when she had a student that was struggling and she wanted me to watch a video. She had to give me her GoReact login and all of that. It would be really nice to be able to share videos somehow.
You can share your whole course pretty easily. Like I shared my course with Katie.
Maybe talk to
So
Katie
maybe
about
that's back to training.
One
But
idea,
it would
two
be nice to
observations.
have another for a second observer.
one thing kind of related to that would be, I would be interested to see how my use of GoReact compared to other professors. And so that would mean what the average number of comments people have and that kind of stuff. Because I don't, and I think it's purposeful that we don't really compare that kind of stuff, but it would be interesting to see how different people are using it different ways. Like find out like I'm providing lots of feedback, or I feel like I'm providing a lot of feedback, but compared to other instructors, I'm providing half as much. Or,
Well, we could certainly do in a rater with GoReact where we all
not even
do
in
some
a rater, but just
together.
Yeah, I guess we did that. Guess we just talked about it. So,
I wouldn't want to be, I like that there's some flexibility, and I wouldn't want it to be like, you have to do this,
Yeah.
you have to fill out the observation form, you have to do this.
True.
That would make me more, I like to do it the way I'm doing it, which is written feedback, and
Natalie, you might be thinking if you have any questions that.
Yeah, I have a few I can talk about at the end.
Okay. And I'd like to ask you about the self-evaluation piece and their goal setting related to that. So what has been helpful when they watch their own video?
There needs to be a form or something. They're really lost about their assessment plan, like
What they're looking for?
they just email me back a thing. Are they supposed to email, is there a form or something where they're supposed to email me back their action plan? There is a form? They don't use it.
They got it in the orientation.
Okay. Christy Weber is the only person who's ever sent that to me, and I was like, oh, this is cool. I've never seen this before.
Yeah, I've never
Emily
So-
used it, and
I've
it
never
was
seen
awesome.
So how can that be more there? Or, I don't
Is that
know.
something that you could tack on to? I mean,
Possibly.
I don't know how to make
I've
that
never
happen,
seen
but it was much more thorough when she used that form.
Yeah.
So, do you think that it's powerful to have them watch themselves teaching?
Oh,
Yes.
for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that's the greatest strength.
I think it's uncomfortable but powerful. I think it's very hard sometimes for people to watch themselves teach, but I think it can be very powerful and attractive.
Do you think that doing it more than one time would be helpful, or?
Not the same, I don't think watching the same lesson more than
No.
once, but.
Oh, my students have to make comments on theirs every single time, so
Same.
I record that every time.
Same.
I think that they maybe aren't always good at setting goals without me being there to talk about what they should set, but the action plan, I like having the action plan, I think it's useful, but sometimes their action plan seems a little light, maybe.
I did tell them that it was a helpful form if they wanted to do it in a different way, they could, but not doing it at all wasn't.
Well, they send me a thing that says this is what I want to work on, but that one was just so much more thorough. I just thought it was, maybe it should be
And it's not
graded.
thorough, it's light. I mean, it's just like
It was
a
way
couple
better
fill
than,
in.
I'm going to work on specific ways. That's what it should
Yeah, that's what I get at.
Yeah.
Self-reflection's been part of teaching for a long time. I remember when I went through the teacher in here, Richard's office used to be a video lab where you could go in and teach.
Oh, that's true.
Watch yourself teach. And that was back when you had to do it on a camcorder with the VHS tapes. So I think that's always been a powerful part.
Natalie?
Yeah. So let's see. There's a lot of good things. When we did our focus group last time, one of the girls mentioned how she would like to have them be videotaped and have a teacher in the room. Have you guys ever done that before? Is that something that you guys have thought about
Like,
doing?
would you have to watch the video after are you the teacher and then you also watch the video?
No, so like you as a supervisor would go in and watch a teacher candidate, and then as they are also videotaping as well.
And then another supervisor would watch the video?
No, and then
Oh,
they
they
would
could
just
watch
watch it
Oh, the
again.
student would watch it.
I could see that if we were paired, potentially one person watching it face-to-face, one person watching the video, but I don't know what the advantage would be otherwise.
Okay, that's just one of the concerns that they
That student said they
had.
would like to have both a video of it and verbal
Well,
feedback.
they
of it.
certainly could video themselves when we
Yeah.
come if they
Yeah.
wanted to and have it
Okay.
on their own.
The other things were, can you tell me more about this praise rate tool, that widget thing? It's
I can
We
show
could
it
show
to
super
you.
cool.
I
Okay.
can show you too. I think Heidi and the IT guys downstairs, it's beautiful.
Okay.
And I've used it to really great success. I've even talked to Heidi about this. There's a visual component on it where it actually will show like bars of how often they're giving praise and where
It creates
where
a visual, it creates
Wow.
a graph.
it creates
That's
a
cool.
graph kind of at the bottom, and I've used it to really good success with a student where we were talking about how she moved on to independent practice too early, and I could show her right there visually that she was giving, it was basically she had done, student opportunity to respond, and then it was correction, or error correction, opportunity to respond, error correction. And I was like, do you see how many errors are happening here and how many times you have to correct? That shouldn't be happening in independent practice. You should go back to guided practice. And it was so beautiful, and it just showed her right there, like, in color. Oh, yeah, I really shouldn't have gone on to guided practice. It was like, mwah, I loved it. And it was so easy because all I had to do was just, I set the timer and I just click, 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 and it was awesome.
That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah,
No, that would be great. Yeah, I think that would be really helpful for the
You might
teacher
be able to
candidates.
take even a screenshot.
That'd
Yeah,
be
I
cool.
can show it to you. It was awesome.
Then the other question was, what feedback have you given the teacher candidates that they have taken? Have you ever given them feedback that they didn't take, or that like they didn't like take seriously? And what do you think? Like, why do you think that was?
I think the more specific, well, two things. I think the more specific, the better, because I can say things like, your pace isn't perky. That's a common thing I might say. You don't have perky pace. That doesn't really mean anything. But if I say to them, you need to ask for more opportunities to respond, this many per minute, that increases your perky pace, then it's easier for them. So something more specific I think is better. And secondly, they're better if they came up with the problem, then they're looking for the solution. So like if they said to me, I noticed that my kids are off task and they're doing this, and then we talk through it, they're more likely to take the feedback than if I'm like, your kids were off task. You need to do this. Then they're like, whatever, I don't care.
I think that's a tough thing to ask. So I think sometimes students, I know, I give them feedback and then they only do those things when I come observe them again. So it's how,
Really?
which is only 2 or 3 more times, but it's, are they doing that every time? And
I can usually catch them though. If they're not doing it every time, I say to them, I don't think that's something you're doing every time, because you're not. It's not.
You
it's
can
not
usually
getting
tell
better.
because the kids aren't. The kids don't know
The kids
what's going on.
see
The kids
things
are like, what?
new. Yeah.
Um,
That's true though. They don't, sometimes they just do things for us. Especially if
I
their
can see
classroom philosophy is not on point with the philosophy from what BYU is looking for, then they will manufacture it for the observation.
That's good to know. And I think, Kate, you were saying something about like the second observation forms. Someone was talking like another set of Did the kids have a list? The student teachers have a list of what they need to look for in their evaluations?
they know what there is a formal observation
Yeah.
form that they are familiar with.
And it's on Go React. They
Okay.
can just pull it up.
She's saying it would be nice if 2 people could fill it out. Like if there was 2 forms, like the student could fill it out and the professor could fill it out. I think you can
Or
only
Heidi
fill
can
out
fill
once.
it out and I can fill it out.
I think you can only fill out the observation form once for each video.
So like at the top on the right-hand side, there's a tab that you can look at the comments, like the timestamp comments, and then there's a tab for the observation form. It'd be nice if there was another tab that just had the same observation form just twice, so that has an opportunity for 2 observers to make comments,
Okay.
That
to
would-
evaluate.
That would be nice. My big issue of notifications as far as a feature request keeps coming up because I feel like I open Go React, then I dig through my email for a half hour. I extract all the garbage that I need there, and then I've got it all open. I'm trying to pull some additional forms or other things. Having it all in Go React would be
Yeah.
really nice. And then being notified that, hey, this is available, or these modifications, changes, new forms have been uploaded. all
For that
would be
reason,
helpful.
that's why I require my students to upload their lesson
Lesson
plan.
plan,
Because
yeah.
I was doing the same thing, like, all right, going back through my emails to find the lesson plan that they sent
Oh,
me.
no.
Yeah.
When you said that, I immediately made a note, like, I've got to do that.
You're not going to be
because it's
successful
so
if
obnoxious.
you have all those things to do. You
Yeah,
won't,
yeah.
you won't ever do it.
Yeah.
I just showed up for an observation a day or 2 ago, and they didn't give me a lesson plan. At a live observation.
It's the end of the semester, and they,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff makes me crazy.
But yet you still observe them.
I wouldn't, but I wouldn't
you have
pass
walked
them
out?
without a
No.
observation.
Students know that.
But they would pass.
I mean,
They would
it's not like
pass.
you- yeah.
If they don't have an observation form, I have a lesson plan, I wouldn't pass them.
Wow.
I was going to say something. Oh, it would also be nice if you could comment without seeing the previous comments. It would be nice if you can almost have a fresh slate of being able to comment yourself. You know what I mean? Like,
So
it's
2 people could independently make comments, and then the student could go through and see both sets of comments at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's what,
instead of always adding to the comments that are there.
Okay.
I don't know if
I
Go
like
React
seeing
can
the
do-
student comments
I totally do, but
because I want to
What about a box
respond to
where
those.
you could just check what comments you want to see?
But what if Kate and I are both observing someone because I need him to help me? I have to either we can't make comments, or else then we've informed each other. We can't really do an iterative reliability because we've informed each other on the comments.
and that
So
actually
one thing
has
that's come up
happened.
is that with a live observation, there was only one opportunity for one observer. With a distance observation, there's opportunity for multiple observers in the case of students that struggle or for program considerations.
I think they would have to upload the video again to have a second way to
Is there a
do
button
it.
that you could do to duplicate
Like
the video?
duplicate-
I think that would be
video.
an easy thing to do.
Duplicate the video.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be nice. Or even if you could just send the video to a second
I was
observer.
thinking send to.
Yeah,
to a course.
just like like they do on Facebook, you know, where it's just you can just share the video to someone privately.
Send a YouTube, put a
Yeah.
YouTube link on there.
Why not?
Because they can both see it now, and we could share the class and make comments. But I want to make comments without seeing someone
Yeah, I think
else's
the key
comments.
part is
Okay.
that you're
Yeah.
watching it without having.
Fresh eyes.
Right.
Yeah.
The
I'm
confounding
gonna have to
variable of someone else's thoughts.
Give me your signature on
I also
this.
think that there's a strength in that too, in having them separate, because when I did it once with Katie, giving second opinion, a lot of the time our comments were very similar, matched a lot, and I think that that's just that's the strength of an inter-rater observation, you know, where, yep, I saw it too, and we like almost the exact same timestamp, almost, where I saw it too, and made a comment about the same thing.
Okay, this has been really great feedback. Is there anything else that
I have one more question.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Okay.
You said that you would videotape yourself with your feedback. Did your students find that was super helpful? Did they ever comment and saying like, "Oh, that makes a lot more sense"? Because I know I would totally appreciate that, having a teacher actual video.
Yeah, I had a student who really struggled. A couple of, I don't remember what it was, a couple of semesters ago, but that's what she would, I just don't get what you're saying. I did an observation on site and made some comments, and we kind of went back and forth over email, and then the next Go React video she uploaded, I said, this is exactly what I mean. And I had the same things written on the board that she had when I did my video. So I videoed myself, I walked to the board, I said, this is exactly how I'd say it, this is what I mean when I'm talking about modeling, and then switching to guided practice, and she responded really well to that. I
Okay.
only have one experience
Really,
doing
just
that
one?
kind of thing, but she liked it, and it seemed to deal with some of her concerns.
Okay, but you haven't seen that spread out to any other students,
I haven't.
Okay.
I
No,
just
that's
don't
good to know.
observe quite as many as Carrie does.
right?
So.
Okay, no, that's
I've never used that feature. I should.
because I would really like that. I haven't done student teaching yet, but I think that would be super beneficial to have a teacher videotaping.
Yeah, I think that's actually one of the strengths of the face-to-face observations, is that I can model right then and there what I'm talking about, even with the materials that they're using. But I could see how the video component taking away some of the barriers that distance support creates by using the video and being able to explain.
I don't, maybe this is probably wrong of me, I don't view distance supervision as a chance for me to provide instruction to the student. I've always looked at it as more as I provide them feedback. I don't teach them. I teach them during face-to-face. And it makes sense that I would do that
Similar
during
for
both.
me.
But I wouldn't take the time in distance supervision to say you should do it this way. It's always like, you're not doing it right.
Okay.
Whereas when I go and visit them face to face, I
You
would
actually
take the
tell
time and
them.
say, what could you have done differently? Why didn't you try this or that? But for me, the Go React is very much, I go through, I look, are they doing things right or wrong, and let them know.
Which I feel like can bring up a problem with the distance, is that it feels more punitive, it feels more punishing. You can't get the feel from someone, the emotional aspect that you were talking about. I know that even in interactions I've had with students, I know that my video feedback has felt more harsh. I've gotten feedback from students that have been very, very upset by video feedback I've given them.
We feel like we're not doing our job if
Yeah.
we haven't said
But
critical.
remember, we're condensing so
Auditor
much.
syndrome.
Right.
We're taking out all the fluff,
Right.
and it's just your bare bones. This is
Yeah.
what I see, this is what you need to do.
I think students find it way more harsh, the video feedback.
One thing I've done on Go React is I'll say, this was a concern that I had, and I have 3 suggestions. Why don't you try these and let me know if you like one. but I don't teach it. I don't model it, like you say.
That would
That's
brings
sort
up a question. So what's the point then of the video feedback? Because you're just telling them what they did wrong and not offering any way for them to fix it. You know what I mean?
Oh, I
Just to
offer
save us time.
suggestions.
Come on, Terry.
It's one of the 6 observations you would have to write there.
But that's
I offer
really
suggestions, but I don't go in depth.
practicality. Thinking from a student's point of view, like all that did was tell me I'm crap, but it didn't tell me how to fix it. So then I'm even more nervous about my in-person observation. I don't really have any better skill set, and then coming from an observer, I was like, well, I told you this should be better, and then my in-person observation is somehow a little bit more harsh because I'm now grading through a lens of, but I told you this needed to be better, and it's not still. And the student coming from, well, thank you for telling me that it's still that, I still don't know how to fix that.
I think if I saw something that was really a concern, I would set a way to talk about it.
I
Where it
think a
was-
video is a great way of doing
Yeah.
It's kind of a good middle of the road technique.
Yeah.
It's got elements of face-to-face, but done through video.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting, the majority of my behavior is exactly what you're describing. You know, I just go in and I give
If you were to look
feedback, but occasionally.
If you were to go in and look at
it.
how
Yeah,
many
really good.
Yeah.
critical comments, at least personally, how many critical comments I give and then how many suggestions for improvement, they're not comparable.
Well, I think
And that's face-to-face and distance.
I think you have to think differently about the instructional part, how to do that when the medium is so different. And what I would love to do is have, I'm sure this would be painful for both of us, but my supervisee and myself sitting and talking about, like, a facilitated conversation with someone else to say, you know, I did these videos, I presented this, you know, was it effective? I perceived that it was really helpful, and she stopped asking questions about the things I modeled on the videos. But was that just because she was tired of hearing me say the same things over and over again, or because it was really helpful to have the videos? I don't know. I have no way to parse that apart.
Well, I'm really grateful for your feedback, and I'd like to ask you a couple of questions that we talked about in the beginning. Is there anything else you want to say?
Thank you. This is a great
Yeah.
resource.
That was
Thanks for participating. And if you'll sign this, see, this is the main reason that you should participate. And please have some snacks. I mean, it keeps
Did you
us,
make the cookies?
yeah, keeps us focused.
Those are pretty good cookies.
Dang.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. I still haven't spent the last gift card I got like a year and a half ago.
I can help you with that.
I don't spend gift cards. I like how this envelope full of gift
What?
cards.
Give it to me, Ryan. I know what to do with it.
I think it drives my wife crazy because she spends them like immediately.
Yeah.
But I have like Amazon and
What? Ryan,
You
I've
got
got
a
a
rainy day
whole
collection.
wish list that I could take care of real fast for
I'm
you.
sure. All right, see you guys. Thanks.
Bye.
Okay, Stephanie, when we started, I asked the question, tell me about what it's like to go into a classroom and visit and give feedback face to face. So tell me how you feel about that. What you like about it.
What I like about it,
Yeah.
like I said earlier, it's easier for me to describe something in person than it is on typing. And I've always been like that. Writing papers is not my forte. But, yeah, like it just, I don't know, and I'm a really like praising, upbeat kind of person, so kind of what she was saying like on the video, like, oh, like, I don't like that. Or like, you know, doing the sandwich method. You say a good thing and then a bad thing and then a good thing. I don't really like that, but.
Okay.
I got an article for you on that very thing.
Is that research-based, Kate? Is it a good thing to do?
Okay, what went well in the process of supervision at a distance? What's the strength of that part?
I think the biggest strength with the 3 people that I was supervising was just them being able to watch themselves and then hearing what they have to say, like seeing their comments about it. I don't know, but just with the 3 people, I felt like it was just really individual. Like the 2 people that I had last year did a lot better with it than right now.
I've noticed that too, and I think some are just better with technology.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's natural for them, and with others, if they have a problem, they tend to get frustrated, and then they have more problems.
Yeah. Like, it wasn't so much the technology part, I think it was just more like learning what I was saying or giving like the feedback, because then I would go in and I would see them implement what I had said on the video with my next observation.
Good.
Like, they could actually understand it, whereas I did this last person really up super well.
Do you think that the balance is about right? You think half and half is good?
Yeah,
I know
only-
you changed it this last time.
Yeah, I only
And
had
that's
her do
fine.
2 videos
That's fine.
just because I felt like she learned better if I went in, and then the teacher this time was super good and would always be in the meeting with us after. So that's why I felt like it was more helpful. But other than that, with the other 2, I felt like it was even.
So that's a good place to start.
Yeah.
Go.
I did, last time, I did go in 1 extra time for person, so I did like 3 videos and 4 because I felt like she needed it.
And I often do more than 6.
Yeah. And it was easier for me this time because I lived like 5 minutes from school. So it's not like it was super distance for me.
That was sure great of you to
Like
do
the
that.
hard thing I feel like with the videos is it would take me way longer than actually going in and observing. I don't
Really?
know why. Because it's like you stop it, so then the whole lesson stops and you have to write a comment.
Okay.
And
When
then
you're there,
go
you're
again.
writing while
Yeah.
they've gone on.
Yeah, you're writing while they've gone on, and so like I didn't dread the lessons because I thought they were boring. It's more I just dreaded watching it because I knew it was going to take me like 2 hours.
Can I ask you something? Did you like watching the videos more than doing the in class then, or did you feel like you spent your time more efficiently in the classroom?
I felt like I spent it more efficiently in the classroom, but I'm not like
Okay.
everybody else where I have to drive like 30 minutes.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe I'd feel differently if it was super far,
Right.
but
Yeah, like I had one at Centennial Middle School. And for me, I stopped in a couple of times just because it was near campus.
yeah.
And I just wanted to check in and hadn't had a conversation lately and just see how things are going.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you could tell us about this that you think might help us to improve the process or the software?
I thought the software, I never had any issues with it. I think just for me, it was beneficial hearing what everybody was doing.
Oh, good.
It was really beneficial for me to hear that. Because, oh yeah, I should have done that, or that's a really good idea, or just in the back of my mind. And because I'm newer at supervising and just like that experience.
Not necessarily. A couple of them are new.
Did you feel that your expectations of being a supervisor were met?
Thinking back on it now and like grading the portfolio, I feel like I should have been better about explaining assignments. Like the last year, I didn't need to. Like they would send me stuff throughout, and they would ask me questions if they were writing an assignment. And so I would respond or I'd tell them. And this time around, she sent me a couple assignments, but they never really asked me questions about assignments.
Huh. Okay.
And then when I go in for the observation, I would ask, like, do you have any questions? Are your assignments going well? Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm grading and I'm like, ooh, you missed this and this and this
Okay.
and this. So as a supervisor, if I were to do it again, I think I'd be more on top of the assignments throughout instead of just asking, do you need help? Oh no, I'm good. I have, like, she even showed me that she had, like, when she was going to do each assignment, was like, okay, good, great. But now especially the teacher work sample. Especially that one.
Which one's that?
The big one. And that's just from grading everybody's last semester too. I don't feel like they truly grasped. I need to take a pre-assessment to see where they are, and that's how I come up with my units and objectives. And then my post-assessment test, those grades should be better than the pre-assessment. And a lot of the time, they weren't better or they were worse. And I'm like, so like that, I would want to explain that more even throughout, like, maybe go observe one of the units that they're doing, objective, like actually plan, hey, I'm going to come watch this objective within your teacher work sample to see how you're teaching it, you know.
Right.
So,
yeah, that makes good sense.
just like thinking back on it now, I would love it. Because I feel like the teacher work sample is the hardest for two teachers. Because I feel like they don't really quite understand. They're like, oh, it's just an assignment type thing, and then they need to get done. Not so much as, yeah, it's an assignment, but how can I apply this to my teaching, like when I'm not with another teacher?
I would totally be one of those students. They'll just be like, this is just an assignment. So I don't know if there would be like a better way to like help them apply it. I think that is a real question.
That's what I was really trying to get across, and I didn't relate it to the teacher work sample because I didn't think of it then until I started grading it. But throughout the assignments, I'm like, this is why you're doing this. This is why. Because my student teacher this time, I had a hard time with direct instruction because she felt like she needed to get through the entire thing every time. And I'm like, no, that's not, especially when you're teaching severe, you might not get to independent practice at the end of the week, you know, like, type thing. And she felt like she needed to rush through, and I'm like, no, like, we're just trying to get across to you that within teaching, you need to, you know, tell them what you're looking for, model it, do it with them, and then do it by themselves. It doesn't mean you need to pack it into a 20-minute lesson. And she's like, oh. Because I was like, even with so I supervise people on the side to become BCBAs, and I'm like, even with them, I am showing them what I want, and then I do it with them, and then I expect to see them do it by themselves, you know? So I use direct instruction throughout everything. But she was like having a hard time applying it.
Yeah.
We would have hoped they caught on to that earlier. But
I know,
at least
I
if they
know.
do it now, that's good.
I know, like, these people are not ready for independent, like, it's okay, just because I'm here, don't feel like you have to get through the entire thing.
I feel like I'm not even in the program yet. Well, I applied and I got in, but I feel like for me, I would be so focused on still, like, this is still like a school job. Like, this is still like something I'm in school for, and not really thinking about long-term, like, how this can help me. Do you feel like a lot of the teacher candidates feel that same way, that they're actually applying it to, like, outside of this internship or student teaching? We should have
Like,
asked that. That would have been a good question.
I would hope so, like, but like, I have to explain. I feel like the last 3 people that I've kind of supervised, I've had to explain to them how they're going to apply it. And that's just weird, because like, coming to college, you get your foundational skills. Because then when I went into my first day of teaching, I was like, wait, what? And I had to like step back and remember the foundational skills that I was taught here, and then you kind of have to teach yourself how to apply them yourself. So I've been trying to, like, because I'm like, you're not going to learn it unless you're seeing how you're going to apply it. You're not going to do it. You're not going to use these skills unless you can see that you can, how you're going to apply it.
And that it's beneficial if you do.
Yeah. Like, even like the teacher log with calling parents, was that not required? I feel like it was required for me.
It was. We decided to drop that from the portfolio.
Oh, okay.
We replaced it with a different assignment.
Oh, okay. Because I was like asking her about it, like, how do you feel like you're doing talking with parents? Because I feel
feel like it's really important, especially with what I do now. I have heard so many people say, the teachers don't even talk to me, I don't even know where my kid's at, blah, blah, blah. No.
Great.
The parents need to know.
I'm so glad that you see it from the other perspective. It's really good.
But, anyway, so,
Well, thank you for coming and giving us good feedback. That was awesome. If you want to
it's fun, like I
fill
like
that out,
going in
that'd be
and
great.
helping teachers out.